I'm going to be doing a project analysis on a myofascial release, which is an alternative form of therapy that takes the fascia, which is the connective tissue along the muscle, and releases tension through it through physical contact instead of having to take medicines or get treatment for tension in the muscle. The first step is to find a tension point. Since this isn't a tense arm, we can pretend that we have a tension point. So you would want to find it along the muscle, which would be right around here. And then you want to have, if you're doing it to someone else, you want to have them be in a seated position, which is like how this is right here, just because you want to be comfortable, because it takes up to 5 minutes usually for the release to work. And then once you find the tension spot, you want to have it be right on pure muscle, because if it is on a vein, like right here, the myofascial release releases circulatory motion for the blood. So if you were to do it right on a vein, it could increase blood flow into certain parts of the body by a lot, which isn't very good at all. So you pick out a spot right along the muscle to do your tension spot. And then you want to place your thumbs like right opposite of each other, and then you want them to be touching. That way, when the release works, they'll separate from each other naturally. So you get that ready. And then once you have your thumbs positioned, you gently press down into the tension spot. You don't want to press too hard or not too soft, because then the thumbs won't move. You want to press about the same as you're taking a pulse on someone's wrist. So you find your spot and you press down, and then your next step is to look away, because once the release is in motion, if you're looking at it, your brain's going to tell you like to move your thumbs automatically, but this release is an unconscious process, so you don't want to be looking at your thumbs while you're doing it. So you create a distraction like talking to distract you. And then depending on the size of the muscle, depends on how long you keep your thumbs on the muscle. So I'm doing my thumb lengthwise because that creates the most amount of room for the release to happen. So you take the length of the arm and you take about 1.5 inches per minute to tell how long you're supposed to be looking away before you look back. So I'm going to do about 3 minutes, which is about a good amount of time to release the tension in the arm. And then once you look back, the farther apart your thumbs are moved away from each other, means the less tense the part of the arm was. So I'm not looking at my arm right now, but if my thumbs are moving apart from each other, that is because of the tension releasing. I'm not moving my thumbs at all, and I actually don't even know if they are moving. To me, it feels like they're still next to each other. So give me a second, I'll wait about a minute to see how my thumbs are. This process works good in physical therapy because it is a way for the physical therapist to get to a patient that has very tight muscles. And it usually works really well. Sometimes it does not work, but other times it does. So, and when it does, it is it can be very rewarding. Okay, now I'm going to look back at the muscle now. Oh, okay, and my thumbs have separated a lot. So this means that because this arm wasn't a tension spot arm, the muscles released actually really fast because there wasn't a lot of tension. So that's why my thumbs are so far apart. And before I release them, I want to make sure I release very slowly, because if you release really fast, it could create a bounce back method, which is where all the tension bounces back to the original tension spot, which can be dangerous for the muscle if it is a large muscle zone. So, hold on a second. You don't want to do this next to organs or the spine because that is a whole different myofascial release to be done there. So you just want to do this on the arms, the legs, the sides of the neck. That's about it, because you just don't want to mess anything up with internal organ wise, because it will move your organs around if you do it wrong. Okay, so now I'm going to release. I want to release really slowly, that way the bounce back doesn't happen. So I'm slowly picking my thumbs up, and now they're released. And you can see that there's two little red things right there. It's not because of an extensive pressure, it's because of all the blood flow that was, you can see it probably right there better, that was caught where my under where my thumbs were when the release happened. And so now that your thumbs are released, the only thing left, the only other step left is to have your patient that you're doing it on make sure they drink lots of water for the next day, probably like about a normal average amount of water, but a little bit more, just because this does release circulatory, so you want to make sure that your blood flow is kept up good with the amount of water taken. And that is all.